Update: Am I wrong for being uncomfortable with my wife being friends with her friend after something she accused me of? Original post: My wife and I have this mutual friend, ex-friend for me, let's call her Kate, who we both knew independently and introduced us. Over the years, Kate and I drifted apart, but still talk frequently. She's always been more of my wife's friend than me, my best friend from childhood, etc., so it's never really bothered me. A few years ago, someone tangentially part of our friend group that I only semi-knew confided in Kate that I solicited her for nudes. This person I had only talked to maybe once or twice, and it was only ever about her art. Although it's worth mentioning that she has a good side hustle drawing hentai. All I ever really said was that she was talented at it, and I liked her art. I guess one of the pieces I particularly liked was a self-portrait. I won't get into the details, but it was nothing like her and was an anime girl, so I'm not sure how I would know that. Kate told my wife about this, who spent a week being upset about it before telling me. I showed her the chats that we had, and that was the end of it. Edit: I'll add that what I said about the self-portrait was something along the lines of, "Holy shit, this one's perfect, the lighting and the figures are really hot. You should be doing this as a day job." She apparently only mentioned it in passing to Kate as interesting, her words apparently. Kate took it upon herself to tell my wife about it. When my wife confronted the friend, she didn't think that I was trying to get nudes or anything, but thought I knew it was a self-portrait. A few months later, Kate decided to take it upon herself, then to tell my wife I asked her to see pictures of her feet. Admittedly, I have a foot fetish, something my wife divulged to her, which I'm not particularly cool with, but I'm not super ashamed of it or anything, so I don't care all that much. The conversation Kate, in my opinion, misconstrued was her venting about how frustrating and objectifying it is that she feels like every guy wants to see her naked, and all I did was sympathize with that and says something along the lines of, "Yeah, I mean, I'll admit there's a split-second intrusive though, about that I'll get when I meet people, but it's probably some caveman lizard brain shit." When my wife brought it up, I again showed her the messages and she agreed it was a misunderstanding. Although, when she brought it back to Kate, trying to mediate the situation rather than defending it as a misunderstanding, Kate was adamant I was subtly fishing for nudes and feet pics. Wife didn't ask for this, but I let her go through all the messages again and my phone and computer, and she found nothing. Kate decided to cut contact with me, and I haven't heard from her since. Now for the comments before reading the update. We also have to add that it is his wife's fault for telling Kate he has a foot fetish. Like, why would you tell about your significant other's kinks, sexual likes, and stuff? That's such a weird behavior. Bedroom stuff and kinks are no one else's business. Maybe it's different if you're non-exclusive with people or hookups, but not in a proper relationship. You don't go telling people that your hubby or wife is into in the bedroom, though I'm sure more people than I'd like to admit probably do this. Thinking about this, my bestie, whom I love dearly, knows more about everything than literally anyone else in my life, and I don't even share those details with her. I personally would tell wife Kate has made false accusations about me several times in the past and refused to even apologize when proven wrong. I'm very uncomfortable with her ever being in my home because I can't trust her to not go through my private things or use the fact to make a new false accusation about me. This thing about her borrowing a pair of socks is proof that she has in no way improved and has learned nothing and is not contrite in her behavior. I do not want her in my home anymore. Wife says, I'm just making the situation more awkward and making things uncomfortable for her, being that she's her best friend and I'm her husband. I'm not the one creating the discomfort. I am not the one who made false accusations about the other. I am not the one who never apologized for it. I am the victim here, and I am your husband. She isn't the person you married. I have discarded friends when they said negative things about you because I value you as my spouse over them. Do you really wish to choose her over me as you have so far done by offensively searching my phone, my computer, and my email because of taking her accusations over my word? OP's edit. Edit, I commented this below, but here's the exact conversation that I had with Kate. Kate, I'm just so sick of it. Ugh. Kate, like the one guy from work I told you about. Kate, the mentor guy. Kate, he offers to take me to a place he knows to find something to wear to the presentation we're giving next week. Kate. So I go with him and we're looking and he keeps joking that we should look at lingerie. Kate, question marks like, huh? Kate, what is it with men? Kate, like, is it all, oh, woman must see her boobs? Me, what the F? Laughing my ass off. Me, is that the dude who offered to pay for the extra e-learning shit? Kate, yes. Kate, I thought he was genuinely being nice, but I guess not. Kate, yet another in a long line of men who just want to see me naked. Kate, is it all men? Like, I don't get it. It's so effing exhausting. Me, I mean, I've had the passing, she's attractive. I wonder what she looks like underneath her clothes, but they're more intrusive thoughts than anything I'd ever actively pursue because I'm not a monster. Kate, exactly. I've had the same thoughts too sometimes, but it's like, Kate, I don't go around asking to see every hot guy's dick. Me, maybe that's what he's hoping for. Kate, he has a wife too, so it's like, I'll see Kate from time to time. Wife will have her over or they'll be talking on Discord. I'll be polite and say hello, but she'll turn her back from me or very blatantly ignore me, which is fine. If that's what she wants to do, then so be it. But there was one time that particularly pissed me off. They were sitting out back and I had come through to bring in groceries and put some stuff away in her shed. She had sandals on, and when she saw me, she asked my wife if she could borrow a pair of socks, which my wife obliged. Putting it bluntly, I'm uncomfortable with her being friends with Kate. My wife doesn't have many friends though, as she suffers from pretty much bad mental health issues and doesn't get out much. And I don't want to be some controlling a-hole telling her who she can and can't be friends with. I just hate feeling that I have to be on my guard when she's around, and I particularly hate that my wife, who agreed to it, was a misunderstanding on Kate's part and probably poor wording on mine, didn't defend me. I haven't told her to stop being friends with Kate, but I have mentioned that maybe she shouldn't invite Kate around if I'm home or if we're going somewhere and Kate is there. I'll just stay home. Wife says that I'm just making the situation more awkward and making things uncomfortable for her, being that she is her best friend and I'm her husband. For context, sometime before this, I had a friend who expressed concern that my wife might be telling me she did not want me to go out and see my friends anymore. This was a new relationship and I had a new job and wasn't really fond of going out to bars anymore and never communicated this. He was particularly disrespectful about it and I cut him off without question. I don't expect her to cut her off, but I would at minimum appreciate her telling Kate off when she does particularly disrespectful things. Am I wrong here? No, not at all. Now for the update. So I ended up showing my wife the original post because we had another argument about Kate. She read through it in some of the comments. I think she had a bit of a coming to Jesus moment as she came and sat down and agreed that Kate has been acting weird about this whole situation. We talked it out and I admitted I wasn't comfortable with Kate anymore and wouldn't stand in the way of them being friends, but I don't want her coming around the house anymore, so she agreed, 1, not to bring Kate here anymore, and 2, have a talk with Kate about what her problem is. Over the long weekend, we decided to forego our usual tradition of going to one of her parents for a big meal and just stayed in and ordered takeout. Wife and Kate made plans to hang out too, which was fine, as I had some personal hobby stuff I wanted to log some time on. Kate apparently did not take being told that she can't come over when I'm home very well because she sent me a long message about how I'm controlling and abusive. Wife snapped and called her. They argued on the phone for a while. I didn't listen or anything, but my wife told me that she set Kate straight and basically told her she needs to cut the shit and apologize to me or she'll cut out Kate. After midnight on Sunday, I got my apology from Kate. It seemed pretty heartfelt and sincere, but I just said, "Thank you for the apology. Please understand I'm fine with you and my wife being friends, but I would prefer to continue just being pleasant with each other." She didn't respond right away and I went to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to pee and saw that she responded and, this is where it got a bit odd. She sent a photo of her legs with her feet in the frame in front of the mirror, so I was sure to see all of her feet. It seemed intentional to me, honestly. One foot had a heel and the other was bare. She accompanied this with a message, "What do you think? Yes or no?" I woke up my wife to show her this because I didn't want this to be blown out of context by her. Wife took a minute to comprehend what was happening and concluded she probably meant to send that to her since they got each other's opinions on outfits and shoes. Bit weird to do at 1 a.m. IMO, but made sense. I replied, sorry, did you mean to send that to me? In the morning, she had unsent the photo and message and said nothing else. That is strange. Later in the day, she called my wife and said that she accidentally sent a picture of her new shoes and her feet were in them and wanted my wife to confirm that I didn't save it to use later. I think this is where my wife started piecing together that some of the comments were saying about Kate being a shit stirrer, but the phone was on speaker and flat out asked if Kate did it on purpose. Kate got angry and asked my wife how she could think that. Wife just said because you know he has a foot fetish and sent him a foot guy's equivalent of a full body nude. She started demanding she check my phone because she was having a panic attack over the thought of me jerking off to her feet. My wife rarely gets angry or petty, it's just not who she is. But my wife basically replied to that with, Kate, you should have said something sooner. I thought it was an apology photo for him, so I already jerked him off while he looked at it. There was a huge hours-long argument that followed, but TLDR, Kate is no more, and apparently their friend group has wanted to stop dealing with her bullshit for some time, and all jumped on this to cut her out. Sayonara, Kate, you effing drama queen. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for breaking a promise and attending my stepdaughter's graduation? Plus update. Original post. I'll start by explaining some backstory. I, 54 male, lost my first wife when my son, 25 male, and daughter, 22 female, were ages 9 and 12. Both my kids took it as hard as you would expect, and to this day have a poor relationship with both my current wife, Doreen, 49 female, and my stepdaughter, Amy, 18 female. I started dating Doreen about 4 months after my wife passed. As such, my kids believe I cheated on their mom. Amy was 5 when we got together, and as such, I see her as my own daughter. On to the actual story. 4 years ago, 2 days before Kay's high school graduation, Amy got very ill while visiting her grandparents and ended up needing emergency surgery. My wife and I rushed to be with Amy, and admittedly, I did not communicate well with Kay. At the time, Kay didn't pick up my calls, so I left her a voicemail and several text messages explaining what happened and telling Kay I was sorry, but I would make it up to her. A few hours go by and I get a call from Kay. She is in hysterics telling me what a terrible father I am and stated that if I did not attend her graduation, I would be dead to her. I chose to support Amy. True to her words, Kay did not contact me on the day of her graduation, and when came home, Kay's things had been moved out of the house with a note explaining that we were no longer family and to never contact her again. Luckily, Kay and I were able to reconcile. However, I promised her I would give her absolutely anything in the world to make her forgive me. She said that she would forgive me as long as I refused to attend Amy's graduation, as this was the only way to make it fair. I agreed at the time, thinking she was just joking or angry and would soon forget. This leads me to now. Invitation for Amy's graduation went out, and despite all the hostility, Amy wanted to make sure that Kay got one. Kay called Amy later that day and said that she would not be able to attend as she and I would be spending the day together per our agreement. Amy broke down into tears asking me why I was missing her graduation. I assured her that I was not and that I would speak to Kay. Later, I explained to Kay that I simply could not miss Amy's graduation. Kay launched into a tirade about how I was a liar and an a-hole, and how could I do this to her again? I told her that we would talk when she calmed down, and she said we would never talk again. My son and several of her extended family have all taken Kay's side, saying I didn't see how hurt she was at graduation. My wife believes I'm the a-hole for even promising that in the first place, as I should have known it would only upset one or both of the girls. And Amy is just sad and confused, wondering why Kate hates her. I know keeping my promise and not attending Amy's graduation is probably the only way to salvage my relationship with Kay. But no matter how I look at it, I would feel like I'm punishing Amy for having a medical issue, so am I the a-hole? Edit to add some more relevant information. I never cheated on my first wife. Your accusations are honestly tiring and disgusting. Amy's bio-father has never been in her life. I am not Amy's biological father. That wasn't ever even in the question, as we are not the same race. Amy had appendicitis. She was staying over 4 hours away at her grandparents' house at the time that we left. The only info Doreen's mother would give us was that she passed out and wouldn't wake up. My daughter was moved out of her house for about a month and a half, after which we made up and she returned to live with us for another 2 years before going away to school. I did not believe Kay when she said that she wanted me to miss Amy's graduation, as it seemed like a ridiculous request. Despite what y'all may believe, our relationship was fine after this event. We were in nearly daily contact and she would frequently visit us. Comments from OOP. Amy ended up having to get an emergency appendectomy, but at the time was visiting her grandparents about a 4-hour drive from where we lived. Her grandmother didn't give us too much relevant information before we left, just that she had passed out and wouldn't wake up. On the way there, we didn't know her condition or anything because her grandmother is a non-native English speaker and didn't understand a lot of the medical terms. Once we got there and signed off on the surgery, she ended up needing an additional 2 days in the hospital and wanted both of us by her side. During this time, I repeatedly called and texted both my mother and son, who were planning to attend the ceremony. I had every intention of calling/video calling so that I could still support her, but she still told everyone that she didn't want me to be part of it. I didn't immediately move in Doreen and Amy once we started dating. We dated for over 2 years before we moved in together. My wife's death was not a sudden thing. She had battled cancer on and off for years before she passed away. My children already knew and were comfortable with Doreen, as she was my late wife's best friend, so I thought they would enjoy having her around. I offered both children grief counseling. My son took me up on it, and I took Kay to a few sessions, but she would kick and scream and cry every time that I took her. Finally, the counselor decided that forcing her before she was ready would only worsen her grief. I offered her therapy many times over the years, but she never took me up on it. First of all, I knew Doreen for years before I even met my late wife. In fact, Doreen introduced us. I thought my kids would like having Doreen around, as before my wife passed, they loved her like an aunt. I did not move her in or make her a permanent part of our daily lives until over 2 years into the relationship. 4 months after my wife passed, we agreed to explore our romantic feelings. I explained what was going on in age-appropriate terms so they wouldn't be blindsided if they caught their dad kissing their aunt. Now for the update. I wasn't sure if I wanted to post an update after the reaction I got last time. I can stomach death threats against myself, but directing such hatred towards my children was truly disturbing. But the graduation has come and gone, and I thought I would share how it all went down. I'm sure most of you will be displeased. Amy was mad at me for a few days, but we have a strong bond and she quickly got over it. The saint that she is said that she would understand if I wanted to miss it to make it up to Kay. I told her I wouldn't do that to her and reassured her that she has done nothing wrong. As for the elephant in the room, Kay, she and my son live in the same city and work in the same field, so they're as close as ever. My son and his partner are giving her a lot of emotional support at this time. In the end, she decided not to attend Amy's graduation, but sent flowers and a card with my son. There were a lot of nasty messages directed towards her, which I feel is completely unacceptable. She isn't mean or vindictive. She is a smart, very kind, very empathetic woman. She made a bizarre ultimatum as a confused and hurt teenager. I certainly don't think that makes her a bad person. I know all of you seem to think that I hate my children, but the amount of pain I feel at the deterioration of my relationship with my daughter is unexplainable. I've been on and off antidepressants since the death of my wife, and at my therapist's suggestion, will be going back on them. It's taking all of my willpower to not reach out to her again, but I've already disrespected her wishes enough. She can choose to reach out to me when and if she ever wants to again, and I'll be waiting. I know it's not the most impactful update, and I'm sure most of you wanted to see me left miserable and alone, but I don't live my life for anyone else's entertainment. I can accept that I'm an a-hole, maybe I am an a-hole in general, but I'm not some evil monster that y'all want me to be. I'm a man that made the mistake of sharing his problems with the internet. A mistake. I won't be making that again. I probably won't delete this account, but I'm not going to be updating in the future. Goodbye. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they need to find an alternative solution for long-term care for my disabled siblings because I will not be the solution? I, 19 male, have 2 older siblings who were both born with severe disabilities. Their disabilities were related to an inheritable gene that both my parents were carriers of, hence both of them having these disabilities. They had me so their disabled children would have someone to take care of them when they were gone. It was a gamble. I could have been disabled like my siblings and had an even higher chance of also being a carrier for the gene. My parents didn't look into that. They initially planned to adopt, but they were rejected because of my siblings being disabled, and it was decided that they could not adequately care for another child on top of them. So they gave in and had me. Once they knew that I wasn't disabled at birth, they no longer cared about my future because it was set in stone in their minds. I was raised to take care of both of my siblings. I was taught what to do, how to do it, and my parents interfered in my success. They'd pull me out of school a few times to cause trouble, but timed it just right to throw me off and leave me behind at school. Their aim was for me to do badly enough to either drop out or not graduate from high school, so then I wouldn't be able to leave for college. But I worked my butt off to do the best I could. My grades weren't great graduating, but they were the best they could be given the circumstances. I actually only learned about my risk of being a carrier in my final 2 months of high school. My parents didn't care because they never planned for me to marry or have kids, because again, I was supposed to be a caregiver the rest of my life. I moved out of my parents' house after high school and I'm in college now. My parents hate it. I'm mostly estranged and have not told them yet, but I got checked for the gene because I always wanted kids, but I knew that I didn't want to risk having children with the same disabilities as my siblings. I'm not a carrier, which is rare apparently, but with such relief. But it made me even more angry at my parents for not caring. They leave voicemails pretty frequently shaming me for going to college and moving away and not supporting them or my siblings. They talked about how out of practice I will be. So I decided to call them, and over the phone I told them that I was not coming back and that they need to find an alternative solution for long-term care for my siblings because I won't be the solution. I won't sacrifice the rest of my life to care for them. My parents told me that was disgusting to say, and I should love my siblings more than enough to care for them, especially when they are the highest risk adults. Am I the a-hole? Not at all. Your parents need to take on the responsibility. It's their kids, not yours. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.